Hello, welcome to Zeens and Roger. In this video I'm going to make crochet bows and they look a little bit like this. Two different options, arguably two different sizes, but that depends on the yarn you use. This large bow and this super chunky bow have both been made in a check pattern, which you can do if you use two colours, but if you go for three colours it can be gingham. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. I've got a funny little plastic crochet hook, which I believe is a 3mm hook, a needle, some scissors, because I'll need those, and some double knit cotton, which is finer than like a wool double knit. And I use cotton because it's a really sturdy fibre to work the bows in, and you want a really tight tension for these bows so that they hold their shape. I think for this one I want to try the first couple of rounds in these two yellows. Particularly with the gingham, I think it's nice to have 3 shades of the same colour. What I'll do is show you the method for this small bow. So the method is the same whether or not you go for check or gingham, whether or not you go for the large or the small bow or the band in the middle. For the small bow we start with a chain of 16. For the middle of the bow it's a chain start of 19, and for the big bit of the bow it's a chain of 64. I've got these two bits here so I can show you how to do the big bow in a minute, but they look cool. So to start, as I've said, I'm going to do the smallest one as a little swatch just because it's quickest and it gives you the gist for all of the sizes. So I'm going to chain 16. And then in the first colour, I'm going to work a US single crochet, which is a UK double crochet, into the second back bump. So here we have a standard chain, and I don't know if you know already, maybe you do, but the back bumps are the best bit to work into because it makes the stitches much neater. So in the second back bump from the hook, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and you have 2 loops on your hook. This is just a regular single crochet. Yarn over and pull through. I swear this hook and yarn combo weren't squeaky the other day, I swear. Do the same for the second stitch. Oh man, I might have to swap. On the third stitch, insert your hook as standard, yarn over and pull through. You've got 2 loops on your hook. We're going to change colour every 3 stitches, and just to change colour all you do is yarn over and pull through to finish the stitch on the new colour, and that's it. We want to hold and carry the yarn that we don't use, and we introduce it every third stitch and swap, reverse, and swap them over all the time. So 1, 2, 3. On that last stitch you swap the yarns over, and then you go downstairs and you get another hook because this is crazy. It's annoying because I really like that green hook. So where were we? Swapping over again. So we're on yarn A. Let's do 3 stitches in our yarn A. 1, find the back bump, 2, and then I like to just every now and again pull on the the yarn I'm carrying, so it's not going to show through too much on the other side, or through the fabric on any side. Yarn over and pull through with a new colour. And that's all it is just going back and forth every 3 stitches, remembering to keep everything nice and tight. And even tighter than this maybe. You'll notice that the stitches don't necessarily flow as freely as normal, because I'm trying to make sure everything is tight as possible. So there's 3 stitches left to go, and we'll finish those off in this yarn A colour. But depending on the number of stitches you have for your foundation, you might finish on B, for example, and it doesn't matter, because the ends for the larger bow aren't seen anyway, and on the little bow, as long as you get that check effect, it doesn't really matter. So, now I always do this. I always go to yarn over at the end, but I don't want to. Keep hold of that contrast colour. Finish off the stitch in the normal yarn A. We want to complete that row as is, like that. Then chain 1, and you still want to carry the contrast yarn as well, so make sure that's somewhere nearby so you can carry it. So we want to have the same colours sitting on top of each other for row 2, sorry. So that's the first one. Here is the second one. Third one, yarn over, pull through, change colour back to B. Every now and again you might want to just untwist your yarn, and then that stops too much tangling then. So nearly at the end. And at the end of this row we do want to change colour, because we are going to introduce the third yarn as well. And just for the meantime, we're not going to use this brighter of the 2 yellows. That will be reintroduced in a couple of more rows. In the meantime, I just kind of leave it hanging. I'm not going to cut the yarn, because otherwise there's just too many ends. I mean, you can if you want to, but I'm not willing to sew in that many. So introduce the new yarn, yarn C, chain 1, and for this one I'm carrying this butter yellow. I'll try not to twist the yarn too much, so let's carry it from this underside. So I'm just going to put my hook underneath it so I can encase it, enclose it within the stitches. Yarn over with yarn A, carry yarn C. So as I've said, the stitch, I mean, it's just a single crochet, which is a UK double crochet, and it's all in the colour changes. And it's just a question of tidy yarn management at this point, and keeping the tension. But those things they're not too tricky, I promise. So this is row 3, so I'm just going to chain 1 and turn, and then carry yarn A still. I'm at the end of row 4. I don't need this more orangey shade anymore, so I am going to cut this one and get rid. We don't need that one anymore, because I'm going to go back to the colour pattern for the last 2 rows. They're going to be the same as the first 2 rows, so it will mirror this one here, which is yarn A. So let's finish the stitch of the last one of row 4 in that colour. Chain 1. So the next one to be carrying is this yellow, because I'm going to pick that up in 3 stitches time. So let's try and get this in a tidy place so that I can carry it. So I'm going to do the last 2 rows and then come back and show you the rest. So I've finished this little swatch to show you, and there's one optional thing you can do as well. I'm just going to snip this contrast colour, get that out of the way. So I don't like the ends, the edges. I think I can make this tidier, because this end has all of yarn A going along it and this one doesn't. And just to match it, and I know this might be a bit pinickety, I'm not sure, but all I do is to try and replicate the first row of chains I did. I slip stitch along the top, and this is entirely optional. You don't have to do this bit, but I just think it balances it out a little bit better. So it's just sort of inserting the hook into the stitch, pulling through, and then slip stitching through the other loop. Badoom, simple as. I'm going to cut a tail. I would leave it long. I might not necessarily need it long for this bow, but if I was using this as a little tie band around a little bow, like on this one, which is going to be my middle band, I'm going to want that to sew everything in place. With this little bow, which is going to look like this, one of the things I've used this for is just to hot glue it onto a hair grip, so I might not technically need a long end here. So just sew in ends. Okay, for the little bow, to turn it into this little piece of pasta, we're just going to tie some yarn around the centre. I've got a length of yarn that's about 80 centimetres long, and I'm just going to squish the middle like this, squish and wrap. Before I wrap around loads, I've just wrapped around a couple of times because I want to tie a knot, so I'm just going to pop the yarn through the loop a couple of times and pull tightly to close. 1, 2, 3. This is about 15. I'm happy with. I don't know if you saw me wrapping it around, but I've just wrapped it around by just wrapping around, and I've done 15 or 16 wraps, but you can do more if you want, or less. And again, I'm just gonna tie that closed on the back, not the front, which is where it's trying to go. And you can sew these ends in, or you can use them to tie this bow to something. But that's the little one. It's quite cute. I prefer the blue one. And then let's say you have worked on your chaining 64 and building more rows of the gingham effect. So you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 rows on this one. And then this is chaining 19 and 6 rows of the gingham. And then, as you can see, I've done the slip stitch edging as well. So what I'm going to do with this one is fold over the two ends and then sew down here. I've kept the tails to do that job. But this needle is rubbish. The needle isn't rubbish, it's just not the right tool for the job. I need a smaller needle probably. So you sew all the way down the end. And well, you can tell I'm not fussed about whether or not we've done it the right side or the wrong side, because, well, I'm not planning on showing the back at all, so it doesn't matter. I would do this a bit more thoroughly than I'm showing here. Take some care to pop these stitches in neatly. And you don't have to do 64. You can make a bow, because this is what this bow looks like. You could knock off like I don't know, 6 stitches and have it so that it's a more stout sort of bow. If this is too long for you, then just make adjustments as you see fit. It's multiples of 3, so when you're recalculating, have that in your brain so you don't go wrong. I'm just going to tie these two. I'm being lazy. Let's snip. Don't tell anyone I didn't sew that other end in. Bring in the middle of the bow. Make sure, I mean, there's my end sewn in. Tatty as you like, but nobody will know my secrets because I'm going to hide them. Scrunch the bow and wrap the band, and then sew to close. So there we go. You can sew that end in and you have a fantastic gingham bow, which I really like. Which one do you see? That one I think was a different yarn. I think I used Starcraft with this one, and it's made a slightly longer bow. Plus, if I squish them both, the tension on this one is not as tight as this one. So the bow is slightly longer. Slightly different yarn brand, less tight tension, and you can see the difference between the two bows. But checker effect or gingham effect, which is your favourite, let me know. I think they both look fabulous, but I'm going to go with gingham. Love a bit of gingham. And will you try the giant version as well? I think this would look amazing on a clutch bag. I mean, I don't ever go out to places where I have a clutch bag or a giant bow upon it, but it would look amazing. Originally, I designed them as hair accessories, and they attach to an Alice band, or in the case of the little diddy ones, they're the clips and the slides that go in your hair. But yeah, let me know what you think. You will find the free pattern on my blog as well, or you can buy a copy if you want an ad-free version. That's absolutely fine. And you'd be more than welcome to support my crochet habits. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again another time. Cheerio, bye.